opened it because Priscilla, did you want to open us in prayer? Oh, we're going to sit down?
In a minute.
My iPad is in charge, so hopefully I'll make it through. But you guys are used to not having anything up there anyway, so let's just get with it. I like how one guy put the 35th Psalm is calling it the heavy artillery. It's like, I know it sounds kind of like a violent way to look at it, but have you ever come under vicious or unjustified personal attack? And it's like, you stop and you relive the circumstances and you try to figure out, why me, what's going on here, and when you stop to really analyze it, especially as a child of God, what are your thoughts towards the one who's attacking you? And as your attacker continues to heap slanderous accusations on you, or in an effort to ruin your name and cause you harm, it's like, man. So I like how one guy put it, you just kind of feel like the vultures are circling, or the vultures are lined up and got you in their sights, or they're just painting you with an unfair brush. I'm sure we can relate to this. We can think back to the times, and probably, if you're like me, not look back very fondly at how you responded to some of those times, because it's just like, I will always remind people, everybody was something before they were a pastor, right? We weren't birthed, okay? Yeah. Like I said, if anybody would have said that myself and two other the guys that I went to high school with, we were all going to end up in ministry, I can guarantee you that not a single one of my classmates would have believed you. They would have laughed, and yeah, I haven't showed up for a class reunion yet, so they still probably don't believe me. Probably just what I'm posting on Facebook to make myself look good. So anyhow, so think about that as we look to the Lord in a word of prayer. Just remember, we got lots of people going through lots of things. I know John and Earl had a procedure today. No, not today.
Monday.
It was Monday. Yeah, John had his, and Bobby got her knee done today, and so it sounds like that all went well. And anyway, I'm not going to run through the whole list, because as my wife reminds me, as I remind you, one of the reasons I don't mention all the prayer requests is because I'm inevitably going to forget somebody, right? And it seems like I am more likely to forget somebody the older I get. I'm really proud of the one or two I remember, and then people remind me of all the ones I forgot. And so our infirmary list is long, so just remember to pray for one another. But as we look to the Lord and look to get started, taking a gander here at the 35th Psalm. Brother Craig, open us in prayer, please.
Thank you, Father, Lord. We come to you right now. We're just looking forward to hearing your word, and Lord, just tearing it apart and putting it back together. And Lord, just asking you to take and be with us as a church. Help those, Lord, that are hurting, and those that are sick and have ailment. Help them and restore them to their needed health. We just thank you for the blessings, watching Marcos walk, and Lord, just watch over him and continue to strengthen his body. In Jesus' name, for his sake.
Amen. Okay, so, David's kind of being hunted by Saul and vilified by all those that are around him. He's going through, he went through some pretty traumatic times. And so, when you feel like you're standing alone, like you've got no friends that got your back or standing with you, that's a lonely place to be, right? And so that out on an island by yourself, and it's not all a Tom Hanks movie, right? You just, because most of us, there are times when you could just leave me on the island, please. I don't even need Wilson with me. I just leave me on the island and I'll be fine in this life. But I had something that I wanted to share with you all. I hadn't done that before, so let me see if I can find it again real quick. Okay. One of the things that when we start to look at this, you get this of David, and I always wonder about that, and so I read this and I wanted to share this with you just because you need to keep this in mind. So the phrase of David is associated with the authorship of the Psalms as a whole, right? However, the Hebrew phrase often translated of David does not necessarily indicate authorship. You have to pay attention, and with study you can break some of this down, I'm sure. But the Hebrew preposition that's used can mean to, for, by, or about. And so when you start having a multiplicity of prepositional options to choose from with one little preposition, it kind of makes it difficult. It's not like Greek where that's a lot more defined. And so the case in the Hebrew will determine your to, for, by, or about. And so that makes it unclear whether the phrase that's used in a lot of these Psalms where it talks about of David literally mean, is it a phrase that means that the writing was by David or for David or dedicated to David? Or possibly about David. And so it's like, you need to understand that there may be several Psalms that carry this moniker that weren't actually written by David, but made a connection with him based upon past experiences and what was going on. And so anyhow, let's just jump into this and go down through it and break it down as we go. And so the first thing that we want to notice, if I can figure out where I do all of this, I'll figure it out eventually, is the angel of the Lord can turn the tables on our attackers. Okay? And so when you think about that, the first thing that was in the title is calling in the heavy artillery, calling in the big guns. It's like, man, I can't do this. I need some help. I need some assistance. I need somebody to intervene and take care of this for me. And so in these first three verses, that's what the psalmist is doing. And so verses 1 through 3, Phil, if you could hit those for us.
Yeah. Contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take hold of buckler and shield, and rise up for my help. Draw also the spear and the battle axe to meet those who pursue me. Say to my soul, I am your salvation.
So the psalmist is calling on help. He's calling unto the Lord, right? And so what's he asking for?
Get him. Go get him.
What does he ask him to do?
Fight against this, fight against him.
Get into the fight with him.
Go get him.
Yeah. Contend, fight. I need you to take care of this for me. And what is interesting is when you start to look at this, right? That word contend there is, I was going to make a nice little PowerPoints for you, but I didn't. That's a Hebrew word that's often used and appears in a context referring to a legal dispute. So contend as in a judicial proceeding, right? And so here it carries kind of with it though, it can be used for battle. And that's, I think, the context that's being used here. So the psalmist is basically asking Yahweh to fight for him against his enemies. I can't handle this. I need you to take care of this and to deal with this situation. So, you've got contend, you've also got the word fight there, and so there's just no doubt what the psalmist wanted. Now, a buckler? Y'all know what a buckler is?
Small shield.
That's a small, the kind of defensive little shield, right? So what's a shield? You got a buckler and a shield. So what's the shield?
Whenever you have, in the time of the knights, they would have the shield, but the buckler would cover just to the shoulder for whenever they have this.
You're in the ballpark. So the Hebrew word that's used there describes a large full body shield. And usually there's a shield bearer to carry the shield and to protect the one that he was with the responsibility of protecting. So Lord, not only do I want you to have the buckler, I want you to have a full body shield to protect me while this is all going on. And so he goes on there, and what are the weapons he's wanting him to grab hold of?
Spear. Yeah.
Battle axe. Yeah, that's a 60s term used to describe a wife that was disagreeable. I don't make this stuff up. I just, you never heard anybody referred to as a battle axe?
Fred Flintstone used to call his mother-in-law that.
I wasn't going to go prehistoric, but okay. But so anyway, so he's calling on God. He wants him to engage the attackers. He's got his weapons of defense, and then he's got offensive weapons. He's got this spear, this battle axe, or javelin, which is referred to as a short spear. And so, anybody throw javelin in high school? The first time I tried to do it, I don't know why. I learned very quick, you don't twist your hand. You know why? Because as you're bringing the javelin through and you have it twisted, you're going to bump yourself in the back of the head. And so I only did it once. That's all it took for me to learn that lesson. And so that's why I stuck to hurdles and high jumping. It was much safer. Anyhow, so he's called in the heavy artillery, and then he wants to chase them with the angel of the Lord leading the pursuit. It's all these movies you watch, and usually in comedies, right? It's like the old adage, I must hurry and catch up, for I am their leader. And so it's like, it's hard to lead from behind, but it's like, Lord, I'll follow you anywhere, as long as you're leading. And so verses 4 through 6, Jim.
Let those be ashamed and dishonored who seek my life. Let those be turned back and humiliated who devise evil against me. Let them be like the chaff before the wind, with the angel of the Lord driving them on. Let their way be dark and slippery, while with the angel of the Lord pursues them.
Is there any turning the other cheek here? What do we take away from this? Get these verses here, and so what's the takeaway?
Put them down. Make sure to get rid of them.
Well, what's the plan of those that were attacking?
Kill it.
Let them be ashamed and dishonored.
They seek my life and devise evil against me. I mean, and we get upset when we get our feelings hurt, right? And here the Psalms make it very clear that what's under consideration is they want to kill me. They want to end me. And I don't think we've ever been in any of that traumatic a situation. Now I know there are things that some have experienced in their past, but I'm just like, if this is talking about David, I'm sorry, he was on the run for quite a while. And living in caves, playing the fool, doing all kinds of things. And so Saul spent a long time trying to kill that boy, right? And so it's like, we need to understand that there are people, and I look at it more like just out in the world, those who reject or won't accept or don't want to hear about God. They don't want to even consider God. They want nothing to do with God. And so anybody that does, it almost becomes an adversarial process. It's like, if I can't get you to shut up, and I'm going to spread rumors about you and maybe get you fired or get you in trouble or just whatever. And so the world is constantly devising evil plans against God's people. And I don't mean that to sound fatalistic or conspiratorial. It's just, you've got to understand that as a child of God, if you put your faith in the Lord and you believe in Him and you trust Him, it's not a promise of everything turning out rosy in your life. And on top of that, there are going to be people who hate you just because you're a child of God. And I'm not saying you walk around, with a big sign and try to get a reaction out of people. I'm just saying, when people find out, a lot of times they will treat you different. And that's not oh poor pitiful us. Hopefully you're doing enough to where people recognize there's a difference in you. And if you're not, then maybe you need to reevaluate, what you're showing to the people that you interact with on a regular basis, right? And so they're embarrassing. There's an embarrassing predicament here that's laid out in these verses. I mean, look at the phrases that he uses: ashamed and dishonored, turned back and humiliated, like chaff before the wind. Y'all remember what that's about? Chaff before the wind? Who's going to explain that in terms that I can understand? Back in the good old days, they had the grain floor, and you go out there and you beat on the stalks of wheat or whatever grain it was to separate the kernel from the husk that was wrapped around it. And after a sufficient amount of time, then the wind would blow the chaff, and I think they had to engage in a little physical manual labor too, just kind of, fan away the chaff and get rid of that so that they could gather the good stuff. Okay, and so, man, their way be dark and slippery, and so it's just like, so. But what's funny is that the way this is said, drive them on, pursuing them. Right, those two phrases, that he uses. With the angel of the Lord, drive them on, let their way be dark and slippery. With the angel of the Lord, pursuing them. So it's like, no, let's not just end this. Let's keep going till it's dealt with. In other words, it's like you come across something that you don't want to come across and you want it gone, and you yell at it, and if it turns and goes away, then you're relieved. You're not chasing the coyote or the bear, right? You just want it to leave, and so, but no, drive them on, and I like that. How many of you have ever ice skated? All you Californians, Jennifer, you never got a chance to ice skate. Take it from somebody who has. You're not missing anything. And so it's like, but you think you're standing and you think you're doing a good job, and then all of a sudden, you know, you hear this familiar cutting sound. And then, down you go, right? And it's just like, okay, I was having fun right up until that moment. And it's just like, I want it to be, I mean, dark and slippery. And, you know, running in the dark and then running across something that's slippery is not really a good thing to do. Because the likelihood is you're going to crash and burn, right? And so the psalmist is making it clear, this is what I want, and I need you to do that. And I already lost my iPad. I knew I should have plugged it in. Anyhow, you weren't watching that anyway, were you? I could go get my cord, but I'm not gonna. And so he goes on then in verses 7 and 8. You're going to ask me a question, aren't you, Brother Tom? Or did you make a comment?
It sounds like David, or the one that was talking about here, he wanted to ruin his enemies, destroy her out of the land. Should we have that same attitude towards ours?
I think there's one of us protection, not destruction.
No, how do I phrase this? If we're trusting in the Lord will only do that which is necessary, right? And if we're following Him, He'll lead us and guide us down a path that will put us in a place that He wants us to be in. In other words, the key to conflict resolution isn't beating the other guy to a bloody pulp until he submits and can't fight anymore. That's not the Christian approach to it. We're calling upon the Lord is what the psalmist is doing, and he's using familiar battle terms, right? He's like, I mean, this is a war, this is the enemy. I mean, and so he's just using terms that are easily understood by everybody who's reading this. That, man, when you go to war, what's the purpose of war? Break things and shoot people. I mean, that's war. Okay? And so what does that do? That puts you in a position where you can win the battle. And so what the psalmist wants is a situation where ultimately he can have peace. Right? And so I need God to drive these people away. Get them away from me. I don't want anything to do with them. Right? It's not helping me. Yes, sir.
And Paul, in one of his writings, says we don't wrestle or fight against flesh and blood, but against Satan and the spiritual powers. Those things are really our enemies.
Well, and that's the thing. I know I say this a lot, but it's just true, and you need to remember, the devil hates you. He just does, and he's going to do anything he can to destroy your testimony, your reputation. He'll just burn it to the ground. He doesn't want you to do anything that would convince anyone else to consider accepting Jesus and listening and following after the things of God. And so, to him, it all is a numbers game. You know, he's going to hell, he knows it, and he just wants as many people as he can get to end up there with him. And so just catching them in their own devices. You know, catching people when they're acting in a way that's just not consistent with what they're saying about you. And so verses 7 and 8, go ahead and read those, Tom.
Since they hid their net for me without cause, and without cause dug a pit for me, may ruin overtake them by surprise. May the net they hide entangle them. May they fall into a pit to their ruin.
Okay. So, excuse me, King James and New American Standard both use that phrase, for without cause. You didn't have any, there was a reason for this. You didn't have there's no cause for you to be doing this, right? And so what have they done? What's the unjustified attacks that they've done?
Hit their net,
Hid their debt
try to catch them, dug a pit for them.
and dug a pit. Okay? Again, this is, they're trying to entrap me. They're trying to, you ever been talking to somebody and it felt like they were trying to manipulate you into saying something or doing something? Dr. Robinson taught me a valuable lesson early in my ministry was that, and I've been here long enough that I can say this without offending anybody. But he says, whenever you go someplace, right? Usually the people that will buddy up to you the most when you first get there will be the ones that will stick the knife in your back after a time. And I learned that lesson because, you know, you have people that are older that you respect, right? And y'all got people you admire, that you respect them, and they tell you things and you believe it. Why? Because they told you. The saddest thing is when something they've told you, you actually search it out for yourself and realize, oh, that's not so. Right? Oh, shucks. Nahushtan. And it's like, you go, why did you say that about me, Phil? Say what? Did you bug my house? How did you know? You know, it's just like, it's just so unsettling. And so people do that. We do that to one another. And it's really, it's just heartbreaking. So you've got this unexpected retribution that he says, so let destruction come upon him unawares. Let the net which he hid catch himself. Into the very destruction, let him fall. And so it's like, whatever the traps are that they've set for me, let them get caught in it, right? So what does somebody who's accusing you of being a liar not want you to do? Be able to point out that they're a liar. You know? And so somebody tells a lie about you. What do you want to do? Do you want to do, oh, that's okay. Or no.
Set the record straight.
You want to set the record straight, right? And so it's, you find a way to be honest, I think some of the most enjoyable moments of ministry and in my life are when somebody will say something and I have the full freedom and confidence to look at it. That's not the person I know. You're not describing somebody I know. So unless they are just a manipulative master, I don't believe you. But I know what we should do. Let's go talk to them and find out. That's when you're going to find out, oh, no, I don't want to, what, now wait a minute. You've just accused somebody or said something about this person. Let's go verify and work this out, right? And so that's how you catch somebody in their own net. That's how you cause them to fall in the very pit that they were trying to chuck somebody else into. And I think what is so sad for so many people is we are so quick to believe the bad and we dismiss the good. We just, yeah, whatever. Somebody doesn't, whatever. But somebody doesn't, really? Tell me what? What'd they do? What'd they say? Where'd they go? And so it's like, I look at what the psalmist is saying and I making that relationship to us today. Looking at interpersonal relationships that we have and I'm sorry, if you ever got a promotion at work that somebody else wanted, you've experienced some of this. You just have. Why? Because most people don't take not getting the job they wanted that goes to somebody else very graciously. They're going to prove that they should have got the job and you shouldn't have. And it's sad, but no, I don't want you to think every human being on the planet is manipulative and conniving. I'm just saying that human nature is such that if you're in any kind of contest, I didn't compete in sports to finish second, but I just didn't. Right? The scripture's talking about who runs a race and doesn't want to get the crown. You know, who doesn't want the medal being put around their neck, right? And so anyhow, 9 and 10. Go for it, Ed.
And my soul shall be joyful in the Lord. It shall rejoice in his salvation. All my bones shall say, Lord, who is like you, delivering the poor from him who is too strong for him. Yes, the poor and the needy from him who plunder him.
Okay. What do we get about when we look at this? There's two things to look at in here. God and deliverance. What's the picture we get of God?
Rejoice in him who saves us.
Okay. Is that, you all should be thinking of a song right now. Our God is an awesome God, from heaven. Right? I'm really disappointed you all didn't just join in. You know, we had a moment for spontaneity there, and you all just like fly on by. It's like, my soul shall rejoice in the Lord. It shall exalt in his salvation. Again, there's the mindset for us. There's the takeaway for the top. It's like when God works, when God does what he does, and I see God working, am I making sure that I exalt, that I rejoice, that I uplift him and credit him? Because he talks about this awesome deliverance, saving, we would say saving against all odds. You know, snatching the, how is that? Is that defeat from the jaws of victory, or victory from the jaws of defeat? One of those, right? And so it's a saving against all odds. Delivers the afflicted from him who is too strong for him. And the afflicted and the needy from him who robs him. That's our God. That's what our God will do. When we seek his help, when we trust in him, regardless of the situation. And the point or the takeaway is to remember that by knowing who God is and having a relationship with him, you're able to have this confidence, this trust that he'll take care of this, right? Now, humanly speaking, it may have an outcome that people will look at and say, ooh, wow, why did that happen? But remember the end result, right? Remember what's at the end of all of this. As I so love to say, my last battle I win. Isn't that awesome to know? That in the end you win. You can go out a winner. I think that's awesome. So the malicious personal attacks, when you stop and think about it, a lot of times they just make no sense. They're undeserved. And he says there in verse 11 through 18, fierce witnesses rise up. They ask me things that I do not know. They reward me evil for good, to the sorrow of my soul. But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled myself with fasting, and my prayer would return to my own heart. I paced about as though he were my friend or brother. I bowed down heavily as one who mourns for his mother. But in my adversity they rejoiced and gathered together, attackers gathering against me. And I did not know it. They tore at me and did not cease. With ungodly mockers at feasts, they gnashed at me with their teeth. Lord, how long will you look on? Rescue me from their destruction, my precious life from the lions. I will give you thanks in the great assembly. I will praise you among many people. Here's what I want you to do. Lay out the contrast for me here. Well, what's the contrast that we have in looking in these verses? Real quick. So we've got the one who is under attack and the attackers. And if you look at these verses, you're going to see very clear contrast between the conduct of the one who was being attacked and the actions of those doing the attacking. And what do we always, what do people in the world say? Well, you know, I'm going to do unto others as they've done unto me, right? And people love to take that verse of scripture out of context and say, you know, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It scares me how many Christians are so willing to take that verse literal, and I'm going to deal with you, right? And so, what are the contrasts? Just lay out the contrast. So, what are the actions of the one under attack? What are the things he does when confronted with someone who's in need?
Praise for them, sad for them.
Okay. Praying and fasting. What else? What's his attitude towards them?
Because if they were his friend or brother.
Okay. I mean, you know, the sackcloth is a sign of mourning. It's like, man, I'm really troubled by this situation that you find yourself in. So think of somebody, and I know you'll have to think real hard because I'm sure none of you have anybody you can think of, but think of somebody you dislike and then you find out that they're sick. I mean, how do you feel towards that person? Do you pray for them? Do you want them to get better? Do you know, you get what I'm getting at, what the psalmist is doing? We think, man, somebody's trying to kill me. Oh, they broke their leg. Oh man, I'm sorry. Let me pray for you. Let me humble myself before the Lord and pray that you have quick healing and that it mends well and blah, blah. Right? The world looks at that and think, man, that's just nuts. You know, you got a broken leg, great. I get a few weeks of peace and quiet, right? I don't have to keep looking over my shoulder because I know I can outrun you now. And so it's like, but the contrast, right? So what's going on? So these malicious people that are attacking him, when he was vulnerable, what was their response?
They tore at him.
Okay.
They didn't stop.
Just kept bad-mouthing him. The gnashing at me with their teeth, that's kind of graphic, you know. And well, they're like a bunch of animals. These people are like a bunch of animals. They're like a dog with a bone. They just won't let loose of it. And they just lie after lie after lie, just malicious. And he says, malicious witnesses rise up. I mean, now I'm down and out. I just need a little compassion. And these guys are coming out of the woodwork just maliciously slandering me, talking against me.
They were enjoying doing it.
Yes. That's really, and I can't find the right words to use. Did y'all hear what Priscilla said? They're enjoying doing this. Now think of the mindset.
It's true.
To find pleasure in the misery of somebody else. Right?
It's around us all day long.
Yes.
You look at it.
we have allowed our society to become terribly divided and divisive and confrontational and angry, and it's just like, man, he just responds, and I like how he responds to deliverance, and it almost lifts up a refrain of praise when he says, "Lord, how long wilt thou look on? Rescue my soul from their ravages, my only life from the lions. I will give thee thanks in the great congregation. I will praise thee among a mighty throng." I'm going to praise you, right? And I want you to know that I'm going to share the testimony of what it is that you've done with the people I come in contact with.
The New Testament told us to love your enemies and live a life that honors your Heavenly Father. Don't be getting back evil or evil. Forgive like Jesus forgave.
And as the carnal, sinful people we are, a lot of times that's hard, you know, because we let our natural man, and that old survival of the fittest take over and go.
The end of verse 13, when you read it, I didn't read it, it was in my version. What was that? End of verse 13?
Verse 13.
Yeah.
But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled my soul with fasting, and my prayer kept returning to my bosom.
The last phrase that says, when my prayers return to me unanswered. And that's the same idea.
Yeah, it's poetical language, and so if I put my prayer out there, and the next thing I know it's right here, it's like, oh, I didn't get done. Right? That's like we talk about, you know, some prayers don't make it past the ceiling. They just kind of hit the ceiling and bounce back because of the attitude that we have or the way in which we go about asking for it. So it's kind of like the boys that were all excited that when they call down fire from heaven. Lord, so that was. In verses 19 through 28, we kind of just deal with the righteous judge and how that when the righteous judge comes forward, he's going to set the record straight. Okay, and so we may beg for. You know what's interesting? Let me find that. 1921. Let them not rejoice over me who are wrongly my enemies, nor let them wink with the eye who hated me without cause, for they do not speak peace, but they devise deceitful matters. Against the quiet ones in the land, they also open their mouth wide against me and say, aha, aha. Our eyes have seen it. And if you go 22, this you have seen, O Lord. Do not keep silent, O Lord. Do not be far from me. Stir up yourself and awake to my vindication, to my cause, my God and my Lord. That word vindication, it carries with it an idea of time to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and the judge is upon the stand, and so a judicial proceeding is about to take place, and so it's basically saying, let's get this over with. Let's just go to the judge and let him decide, right? And so I'm ready to be vindicated. I'm ready to be examined. I'm ready to be, exposed for who and what I am in light of what's been said. Okay. Yep. And so when he's laying this out, it's just kind of a plea for this. Man, let's get this over with, right? And so, who are wrongly my enemies? and rejoice over me, who hate me without cause and wink maliciously, who speak against me with deceitful slander, who bear false witness against me. He said, man, let's bring it into the court and get it over with, right? And so again, we're talking spiritually here, but it's still that mindset. If I'm doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and somebody doesn't like it, then the problem's not mine, the problem's theirs, and I'm willing to let God sort it all out in the end. Right. You know, one of these days I'm going to expect one of you to actually bring pizza. I'm just saying, you know.
We were waiting for that for our small group.
Yeah, somebody,
Anyhow.
oh, it was from you.
So the judge who sees all can't remain silent. There is the rejoicing. Our God will not cover up for our mistakes, but our God paid for them. He'll hold us accountable, right? And there will be consequences, but He still loves us. You see how all that works? And so we say, well, get ready. You know, get ready. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know when something's going to happen. So just be ready and to stand in the presence of the Lord. Right now, while we're sitting here, would you be ready right this very second to be standing in the presence of the Lord, giving account for your life? And it's like, I'm not looking for an answer there. It just, but how many of us live that way? How many of us live and conduct ourselves like that? And so, God won't stay silent. He's gonna, I like how He says, stir up yourself and awake to my vindication, to my cause, my God and my Lord. It's kind of, really? Telling God to wake up. Okay. You know, but anyhow. So, anything you guys see in these verses so far? Jump down to 27 through 28. Let them shout for joy and be glad who favor my righteous cause, and let them say continually, let the Lord be magnified, who has pleasure in the prosperity of His servants. And my tongue shall speak of your righteousness and of your praise all the day long. I like how there's a corporate praise refrain, and there's a personal refrain there. You know, it's kind of, come on, join with me, right? I'm going to do this. You all might as well join in with me. And it's like, I think, so you look at all these verses. You look at what the psalmist was writing about. And so then I started out asking, do you have any examples in your own life of how the Lord has rescued someone, be it you or someone else, who was being attacked without cause, right? I mean, how did God deal with that? And usually what God will do is, if you find yourself in that situation, is He'll use you to diffuse the situation, right? And so, but I mean, what do you do when you experience the frustration like the psalmist was experiencing? Why is this happening to me? What's up with this? I mean, and the psalmist who tried to humble himself and seek the Lord in prayer, But what did you find, Brother Tommy? He said, my prayer kept returning to my bosom. And it's like, Lord, are you not listening? I can't take this. Really? Wouldn't you saying you can't take it if it was coming upon you be a contradiction of Scripture? Can we as a child of God, when something's going on in our life, say, I can't take this properly? And the answer to that, biblically is no, we can't say that. Why? Because God's promised not to let anything come on us that is more than we can handle, or that He isn't providing us an escape for it. And that's tough, right? I wish I could remember the illustration that a guy gave one time of how, man, I can't make it any farther. I can only go this far. And then God just kind of, okay, this is it. I can't go any farther. And God kind of, okay, this is it. I can't go any farther. And God's, I'm right here. I'm the power. I can make this happen. What are you worried about? What do you know that's more powerful than God? What do you got going on in your life that is more devastating than things that we read about, that others have put up with?
Not having God in your life or using Him as your protector.
I had, 5 surgeries in 1 year. I don't want to be Craig. I bet there were times when Craig thought, I can't handle this. I don't want this anymore, right? Made it through the other side so far.
Amen.
Right? You're still standing. And it's like, it's hard to fathom sometimes. I know some, don't get sad. I know some of you have experienced loss, right? And you still think about that. It still impacts you. Okay? And it's like, but who in this room hasn't experienced loss? Did you do? No. I'm going to stick my foot in my mouth. When your dad passed.
About me?
Yeah, you didn't do his service, did you? I didn't.
We did.
I did.
We did.
No, I just realized.
Years.
It's like, how many of you have ever done your own dad's funeral? I did mine. I did grandparents. And it's like, it's like, you all have been around and Priscilla's parents passed. And the only reason I bring that up is it's like, emotionally that can still impact us, but we're still living. We still have a life to live and things that we can do for the Lord. And some people may say stupid things and make jokes of things that it's just like, no, but it's like that you really have a sense that the Lord delights in the good for His servants. Right? Is that a guiding principle? That God has my best in mind at all times. He has the best intentions for me. He wants what's best for me. And you say, well then Pastor, why isn't that happening in your life? I get in the way. I get in the way. I mess up the good that God has for me, and I'll say things or think things or act in a way that it's just like, that's why I'll say, give God something to work with, right? You want God to bless your life, and you want things to go in a way that knows you're on a path with the Lord, then give God something to work with. And so, anyway, other thoughts. Go, Tom.
Yeah, we should trust God no matter what's coming. We can't understand it. Quite often it's painful, it's miserable. We know, like you said earlier, we're going to win in the end. Well, what's the problem? Just go through this hard part, endure, and grow in the Lord's grace and knowledge, and you'll be okay. Another thought about the secular government.
About
About secular government, they don't follow this teaching here. They follow the teaching eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, 100% justice, no forgiveness. And that's the way God wants it, isn't it? Individually, we should forgive.
Are you being political on this?
Well, just some thought.
Just thought.
You can see a difference between the government and our individual life.
Well, there is now.
Right?
They didn't start that way in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was under God.
Well,
God told Israel to eye for an eye from the government. You know, it wasn't this forgiveness.
no, again, can we mess things up? Oh, most definitely. And I apologize to my grandkids and whatnot for the country and the mess that I'm leaving them to grow up in. You know, it's like, Grandma, wasn't your fault. Well, I'm here, so I'm just as much to blame as anybody else, right? And so, anyhow, anything else? I'm sorry, I'll charge my iPad. So, anybody expressing any interest in going to the youth rally on the 28th over at Bixley?
Yeah.
Are you guys going to try and do that?
We have my cousin Lindsay's service
earlier,
but
Yeah.
try to.
Okay. Remember, tell the younger there's food. They said they're serving a meal, so I think we've let everybody know that that's happening. Becky won't be able to make it because she'll be too tired from her happy birthday celebration the day before. Yeah, and so just so you always remember, Becky's older than me. And Becky will always remind you by one day.
It was almost 12. It was 5 minutes till 12. So I was almost born on the 28th.
You can't be part of the club, though. You missed it. Yeah.
She wants her own day.
We'll be born on the same day as that one. Anyhow, appreciate you guys being here tonight. Just remember, just look down through your bulletin. There's all kinds of stuff. If Jason turned the camera off and not post this, I was asked,